Hey guys, it's Marina with Artworthy Life, where I teach Christ-centered art journaling that gets you into God's Word every day. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we're going to be doing a beautiful autumn-inspired art journal page, and the verse we're going to include is yet another in the theme of fear not. So as always, tell me where you're watching from, and we are going to get started on the right foot with some scripture, which is the best place to start your day. So today I'm going to read to you from John 14, verse 27. And that says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." John 14:27. Such a beautiful verse, such a reminder of why we don't have to be afraid, because God leaves his peace with us. And these are the words of Christ. I just think it's beautiful. So that's the verse we're going to include in today's art journal page. And we're going to have these really, really fun, super simple leaf drawings, but they don't look simple. That's the great thing. I like doodles that don't look simple, but are actually simple to draw. I mean, isn't that nice? So then you end up with something nice and fancy, but not super hard to actually accomplish. So if you would like to know how to draw these freehand in detail, I took you step by step through these inside the Art Journaling DIY group. And that's a free group. If you go to the Artworthy Life page on Facebook and click groups, it's under there and you can join that. And that's where this demo is, where we created this really fun page of leaves. But we're going to transfer these to our art journal page right now. Hey, Teresa, good morning. Yay, I'm so glad you're excited to see the leaves in color. Me too. So lots of fun ways to do that. But this is going to be the inspiration for my color palette. You can decide how to paint your leaves. You can do them all different colors, but I like for my pages, when I have an art journal page, the opposite pages to match. So if they clash, it's kind of like when you open them, they don't really make me as happy. So a lot of times if I have two pages together, I try to make sure they match. So I'm going to use this color palette from last week to inspire the color palette for this side of the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with pencil, freehand some leaves, fill in where our lettering is going to be, and then paint. So I'm going to start with a regular pencil. If you want to follow along, grab a pencil and an eraser. Hopefully we won't be doing that much erasing, because these are really, really simple, but just a pencil and an eraser is all you need right now. Okay, starting off, the cool thing about these leaves is they all start with this nice gradual curve. I keep throwing this page out of the way, but you actually want to look at it. So it's got this nice curve, 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 curve. See, all very similar. You can curve it a different direction if you want them to fall different ways. And we're going to make ours a little bit smaller, a tiny bit smaller, so that we can fit more of them onto the page. But we're going to start right here, and I'm going to go with a little curve, and we're going to do this little leaf right here. Whoops, right there. Very fun. It's not as hard as it looks. It's amazing. So a little V at the top, and then these like kind of backwards leaning V's. 1, 2, and then we'll do one at the bottom. This one's going off the page some, so that it doesn't look like it's just floating in the middle. Just a rule of thumb, if you're not into drawing and you haven't drawn very many things growing up, I think one of the first things an art teacher told me was, if you want your drawing to look more well composed, make some stuff go off the page. So like, rather than drawing a tree smack in the middle, or even off to the side where you can see every single leaf, make it kind of go off the page. So anytime you can do that is a win. All right, so we're going to do from the bottom up a little curve and go around this first one, which is one curve, and then we'll start the pattern. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. If you don't know what pattern I'm talking about, go back and watch that replay of the doodle on the Artworthy Journal, Art Journaling DIY group. There we go. Cute little leaf. Ta-da! I think that's super sweet. And let's do another one. I'm just kind of deciding as I go. I think I'm going to make one look like it's falling over here. So we're going to do a little curve backwards this way. like that. I'm leaving lots of space in the middle because I know I'm going to do some lettering, and I'm going to do some V's coming out this way. And this is going to be the little tiny leaves growing off of this one. And you can, of course, change the size and shape of these if you want to. I think I'm going to add one more just to make it go a little bit more off the page, like that. I think that's a little bit bright. Let me see if, I guess it's not easier to see with the light change, but hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, now we're going to do some going a different direction. So I'm going to curve one up this way and do some V's going up the stem. Notice how we start with a curve and then the little V's. It's really cool how you can create so many different leaf shapes just with that. There's another little leaf. Okay, let's see. I want to do one kind of curving this way. This one will float kind of in the middle because of the type of leaf it is. I want to be able to see more of it. And then we're going to do our little long and wide X. Like that. And I'm going to do the little, I call them snowflake stems because they kind of off the sides. How do you like sound effects for description? It works really well. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of those going up this way and then two down at the bottom. We don't put any on this bottom stem because we don't need more leafy there. Okay, starting at the bottom, one, oops, all the way up, 1, 2, 3. We're going to do another one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one only has 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll finish with a little stem like that. Kind of fun. This one can be a little bit wider at the bottom, so I'm going to erase. Typically, I wouldn't freehand on watercolor paper like I am right now. But as you can see, this is like a super one-shot, you normally get it type of drawing today. So we should be good to go. I'm just going to do a couple of extra leaves over in this corner. So I'm going to do another one like this. Kind of coming down like this. Like that. And I'm going to do some smaller leaves, like little, just simple leaves. A lot of times it's nice to fill in with some leaves that are not pretentious. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So there's my fall leaves. Hey, Terry, so good to see you. Good morning. All right, and now I'm going to get my favorite little tracer, or I should say stencil. My favorite little stencil out. This is, I love this stencil so much. It's covered in paint. That's how much I love it. And it is what I use to draw lines in my art journaling. So I'm going to draw some lines for my lettering. Just give myself a base of where to put things. And I'm just drawing them between the leaves. And then I'll figure out where I want my words to be after I get my lines in place. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. This will give me a good starting point. Okay, and my scripture for today is John 14:27. If you missed it, you'll have to watch the beginning. Great Bible verse. But I'm going to start with a key word and maybe one or two keywords. And so I typically read through the verse, pick a few keywords, and then I fill in the rest in print. So the verse again is, peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. I guess you don't have to watch the replay. Now I'm reading it. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So I really like the words peace and heart and afraid. Those are the ones I want to emphasize. So I'm going to say peace here in a nice font. I'm going to just do it in kind of a loose brush font. And this is the second word, peace, in that phrase. Okay, and I'm going to say heart down here. And afraid. Just some keywords. A lot of times I don't do the lettering first because I want to be able to fill it in, but I really want the words to be the feature. So I'm putting them in first, and then I'm going to make sure my leaves frame them out nicely. Okay, so now I'm going to use either my fine tip or my Fud pen. I think I'll just go ahead and use my Fud pen. And I will fill in the rest of that verse. So I didn't say it earlier, but I'm going to say it now. This is the part of the show where Marina stops talking, because if Marina talks while she writes, she misspells words on live. So talk amongst yourselves. Teresa says, good words. Thank you. Hola, Daniel. Thanks for watching. Okay, so starting over, talk amongst yourselves. Hey, put your favorite Bible verse in the comments while you're waiting. Okay. So I like to kind of eyeball this. You can definitely do this in pencil ahead of time if you want to, but I just eyeball it and hope that I can fit it all in. The peace I leave with you, my peace. Make sure you guys can see that on the screen. Yeah, there we go. I give unto you. Not as that. Ooh, that was tight. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Now we say, let not your heart. So I'm going to say, let not, and I'll make this bigger, your heart be troubled. Neither let it be afraid. All right, there we go. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Wow. Isn't that a beautiful reminder? I'm going to put quotes on here like that. And then I'm going to also put the verse reference at the bottom. So John. Teresa says I have too many favorite scripture verses. Well, I don't blame you. They're all good. They used to talk about life verses when I was a teenager. I don't know if that was a trend or if that's been around for a long time, but it seemed like it was really big when I was a teenager. What's your life verse? Like, what's the verse you base your whole life on? And I'm like, the whole Bible. Because it just depends on the time of my life. Like sometimes it's fear not, sometimes it's Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Sometimes it's like, love one another as I have loved you, because I'm not doing very good at it. So it's usually whatever I need to be paying better attention to. That's normally what I revert to, whatever that verse is at the time. Okay, so before I start painting the leaves, I'm going to erase the pencil lines from these verses because I want to make sure that I don't accidentally paint over any horizontal lines. I think that would just not look great. So I'm going to erase those. Plus, it'll give me a better idea of where the words actually sit, and if I need to fill in any extra little leaves here and there, that'll help. Alrighty, there we go. Very fun. I also erased some of my leaf here, so I'm just going to draw that back in. Okay, perfect. I think that's great. I'm going to keep these leaves nice and simple. Oh, Teresa says she does have a main one. Haha. Okay. Can't wait to see what it is. I'm sure she's going to send it in just a minute. Okay. These are going to be really simple because I want to keep this a simple page and just show you how you can create something really nice without actually having to take too much time with it. So on the leaf down here at the bottom, I'm going to use a mixture of olive green, which is number 45 in my Mozart Komorebi watercolor set, which I'm going to put on the banner so that you can see. Here's the supplies I'm using today, except for my brush, which is this Princeton Velvet Touch, but I do love the Hobby Lobby Master's Touch watercolor brushes as well. So if you're curious, that's where you can get them. Okay, let's see. So I mixed olive green and a little bit of yellow ochre, so it has kind of a warmish tint to it. That's how I got some of these greens over here, and I'm going to use the same ones on this side, and I'm just going to fill in this leaf here. And basically, if you can color inside the lines, you can do this. That's the great thing about sketching your stuff out ahead of time. This is just straightforward and simple. So we'll get this all nice and wet. We do want to go quickly because we're going to use some wet and wet techniques really quick. So I'm going to get all this in fairly quickly. I like to use this Princeton brush because it has a nice fine tip so I can do the little detail stuff, but I don't have to keep grabbing more watercolor. So if I'm using a smaller brush for detail, I can get all that detail, but it doesn't hold very much water, so I can only go a certain distance before I have to reload my brush. Whereas this one, I can do this whole leaf. They call this a thirsty brush because it holds a lot of water. So I can do this whole leaf without having to reload my brush, and that can really go a long way with watercolors because a lot of times you're trying to get stuff done quickly before the water dries. So now the water is dry. Teresa says mark 11:22 to 24. Okay, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so maybe you can tell us, or we can look it up later. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit of yellow, and the key with this wet and wet is you don't want it to be drippy wet. You just want it a touch wet, And I'm just going to drop this darker yellow into the edges of this leaf, give it some aged look, not on all the edges, just on some of it. Now, I don't know if Pam's watching, but she has a really cool technique she just learned, which I'm not sure if I'm going to try it today or not. I might just try it right now. It had to do with dragging the inside of the leaf out to to draw the veins in the leaf without actually using a pencil. I might not be doing it correctly, so I'm just going to draw mine in. I'm going to use the same color I just did and just draw in that center line while it's slightly darker. I think hers, I think she actually used, Pam is one of our art members, I think she actually used a toothpick or something like that. Maybe when she watches the replay, she can tell me. Okay, I'm just dropping in a little bit. Teresa says she could copy paste, but she doesn't want to leave the video. Okay, maybe later you can copy paste. Okay, so there's the center of the leaf, and it's okay if your leaf starts to get like have part of it dark and part of it light, because if you go outside and pick up leaves, they're aging, like part of it is crunchy and part of it is still green, and it looks a little bit more realistic when you just leave it like that. So no worries if that's what yours looks like. I'm going to let that one dry and go ahead and work on these little leaves on the edges. So I have kind of a cool yellowy color going on, and that is yellow ochre. I'm still using this left page as inspiration for the colors. Oh, okay, so apparently Daniel knows what that one is. Should I have that memorized? Should I know what that is? I don't know. Okay, so the yellow ochre is a nice mustardy color, but if you want to brighten it up just a little bit, you can add brilliant yellow to it, and it's like super happy looking when you add those two together. I'm mixing it off camera and didn't realize you couldn't see, so here's the color right there. And then I water it down quite a bit because I don't want that like to knock your socks off. Alrighty, I like to paint in the direction that is easiest for my hand, which for these kinds of leaves goes upwards and away from the base of the leaf. So I'm just going to turn my page around like that and paint it in like that. The brush is really wet, so that was a lot of water on the brush. I'm just going to take some of that off. Then you're just coloring in again quickly, because you want to make sure that you're filling in every leaf fast so that you can come back in and drop in more color if you want to, which I plan to. I'm going to go fairly quickly. Also, if you go with all one brush strokes, a lot of times you'll get this really cool effect of the first leaf being slightly more pigmented and the last leaves being slightly less pigmented, which is a neat little fade that actually looks more true to nature as the end of the leaf fades at a different rate than the rest of it. Sometimes. Okay, so there's that, and I'm going to add a little bit of orange in the base of each of these, especially where the little stem is. Doesn't need a lot, just a little to give it extra color. And then I'm going to use that same orange. The orange I'm using is a red ochre mixed with yellow ochre. So it's the number 27 and 7 in the palette I'm using. And it is just like a reddish pumpkin color. It's really cool. Oh, Teresa says it's one about having faith and believing in your heart that what you ask for you will receive. Ah, yeah. Very nice. I love that. We were just talking about the desires of your heart, like asking God to give you the desires of your heart, that he will give you the desires of your heart, I guess is the verse I'm talking about. But what's interesting is people have talked about that verse, that he won't necessarily give you like what you think you want right now. He will teach you what to want, so that your desires become his desires. And then, of course, he'll give you the desires of your heart, which I think is very interesting. I love that. So he changes your heart to want what he wants, to want his will. And then, of course, then your will aligns with his, and he's happy to do that, which I think is really cool. Okay, I'm filling in this yellow. I don't know if that's exactly the case every time. I just heard that somewhere. You can tell me if that's true or not. Okay, this is going to be almost the same color as the other one. I'm making it slightly darker, just with a little bit more pigment, and still pulling toward the outside of the leaves. So obviously, this is not freehand painting. It was freehand drawing, but not freehand painting. We're just painting in what we've already drawn. But if you don't like to color in things like this, you can always just get a nice brush that's a round tip like this, and you can use the brush itself, the belly of the brush, to kind of lay down the leaf shapes one by one, and then you're not coloring it in like a coloring page. Just depends on what you like to do. Okie dokie, let's see. What color do I want this last little bit to be? I think I want some... I think I'm going to make this one more red. So there's not really a lot of red on the left, but I'm going to introduce a new color into the page. So I'm going to use red ochre, which has a nice orange base to it. Teresa says yes. Okay. About the verse, I think. Okay, so burnt sienna is 53, number 53, and it has a little bit more red in it. Ooh, really like that color. But I'm going to actually add even more. I'm going to use carmine to warm it up. So kind of giving it that really cool red you see in some of the trees. I have no idea if the leaf I'm going to paint actually would be that color when it turns, but we're just going to do it. Okay. This one. I would do this one, but I don't want it to just look like Canada. It's like, anyway, I'm going to do a different color for that one. It'll be orangey. Okay, this one is a deeper pigment, so you just want to be careful not to add too much pigment to the page, and you want to go a little faster because sometimes the heavier the pigment, the faster it dries, because there's less water, obviously. So just be careful to go fairly quickly so you don't end up with lines on the edges. But leaves are pretty forgiving, so even if you do see some lines, it's not bad. Get a little bit more water on my brush. The tricky part with leaves is when you're going quickly like this, is you want them to look kind of faded. You kind of want the less saturated color, depending on if you're going realistic or not. I like that less, like more watery. But then there are so many rich colors in nature with these like really vibrant leaf colors. So then I'm like wanting to go back with darker shading, and anyway, it's that struggle of less is more, less is more. Okay, so I'm letting that be a little bit lighter because I don't want to go crazy dark and just offset this page really weirdly. But I am going to add a little bit of dark to the middle, like where the veins are going to be. And I'll do just a tiny bit around the edges where there could be some like darkening on the tips of the leaf. A little bit there and a little there. Just a little bit. Don't have to go really dark on that. We'll bring in some darker tones to match that because all of these are really light, but that'll work for now. I'm going to take the same color we just had and paint in one of these little leaves to balance it out. I think I'll do this one down here. This is just like a little football-shaped leaf with a curve to it. And a little stem like that. Kind of cute. See how that just pulls in that red? And I think I'm going to go ahead and do this one red too because it is a bright color that needs some help. Not looking like it's just standing out. This is also the same shape, so it'll be nice for it to be the same color. This is another reason I like this little brush. I have not switched brushes because it doesn't need to. It's like a powerhouse paintbrush. You can just go, go, go. Okay, I'm going to leave that as is. Otherwise, I'll fiddle with it too much and I'll overdo it. I'm going to give this a little bit more on the stem. Like that. And then maybe just around the edges. And then somebody has to shout at me, quit while you're ahead, stop. Stop! Or you will add way too much shading. Okay, Daniel has a Bible verse. Have faith in God. Oh, and Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Okay. Oh, that's the one she shared. Oh, so that's Mark 11:22-24. To clarify, I think that's the same one. Okay. Terry gives a heart and a thumbs up. Yeah, Terry, you should let us know if you have a favorite Bible verse. Okay, so now we're going to do this bigger leaf. I saved it for last because I think it's the most fun shape. This one's going to be starting with red ochre also, which is so interesting. This, oops, you can't see it again. This color is like really versatile. I've used it for so many things this month because it can go for a pumpkin color. It can go on leaves. It's great for the lettering that we were doing. It just has a really cool warm fall tone to it. I'm going to use this and I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna because I want it to be redder than that. I want to be redder than that. And then water it down just a touch. And we're going to go from the tips of each of the leaves, kind of pulling down into the leaf. And obviously, I'm not perfectly following the edges of the drawing. So if your drawing is a little bit off from the paint, it's okay. It's in pencil, you can erase. But also, I want my brush strokes to be smooth. So I don't want them to just be stiff, like stuck inside the lines. Okay. Okay. It is the same verse. Thank you. I'm glad you got it. That's perfect. That is a great verse. I always read that verse and think, actually, many people take that like metaphorically, like, oh, you know, if you had enough faith, you could do this. But actually, I mean, look at all the miracles Jesus did. I believe if we had enough faith, it could move. Things really could happen like that. I mean, I was just reading when God caused time to go backward. I mean, that's like a big ask. If you were praying like, okay, I need you to hold the time clock, please. And it actually happened. God did it. He was like, wow, okay, well, I'm really impressed with your faith. Here we go. I don't know if he was impressed with his faith or if he just wanted to show himself mighty. Either way, it doesn't really matter, but he did it. And he showed the world that he is in charge of it. So I think stuff like that still happens when God chooses to make it happen. I just don't like to put him in a box. He's powerful. I love the color of this leaf so much. Guys, look at this leaf. Can you see it? Can you see it? Of course you can see it. Look at it. Look how pretty. I love it. I love it. And then when you pull toward the center like that, it's like you don't have to worry about it drying at different rates because it stops in the center and it just it's making my little fall heart happy. Okay, that is so cute. I love that so much. I'm going to add a little bit of red to just make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe a little on the right-hand side. I don't want to add any on the left because that's already dry, so I'm just going to sneak it in right here while it's still wet. I'm going to do a little bit of darker color. Oh, so pretty. I love it. Terry says, loving these fall pages. Can't wait to paint some. Yay! You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Me too. I enjoy the fall stuff. So fun. Okay, I'm going to do a green leaf over here just to pull in this green. So I'm going to make this one olivey colored. Give it a little stem. Again, my paint doesn't always match the lines that I originally drew. I feel like I want to pull this orange in somewhere, but I don't know if I want to put it right here. I think I'm going to draw another little leaf down here. Although I don't really want... It's probably okay. It will be probably okay. Okay, I'm going to grab some orange and put it over here. And we'll just deal with the fact that they're both in the top half of the page. I'm all about balancing where the color shows up. And it's sometimes I'm being a little too OCD. I think it's fine, don't you? 1, 2. Okay. I'm going to add some little bits of orange here because I kind of pulled in some orange. Ooh, I could just add it to that other one. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of the red ochre down here to pull in the orange from up there. Add a little water. I want some of that color down at the bottom. You can even put some on this leaf. Check it out. Woohoo. And a little bit here. That pulls it in right there. Now you've got 3 different colors right there. 3 different places where that orange shows up. Okay. Now, and this is optional. You don't have to do that. You can just leave it like this. But I'm going to, as a finishing touch, just to polish it up some, I'm going to use my Fud pen, which is the hard tip. I really like the hard tip. If you use the soft tip, the brush tip lays down a little bit too much and it can make the brush strokes too wide, which is not as easy to control and can be too heavy for a drawing like this. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom. And, oh, you can see. Okay, good. And I'm just going to do some really thin outlining. And you don't have to do all of it. You can just touch some of your lines. Like, I don't outline everything. Even on the outside of the leaf, I don't go all the way around. I'm just going around some of the edges. You can just kind of go around in a few places. And I kind of like to let my hand sort of skip on the page so that it doesn't connect all the way. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but just barely touching it. I'm going to come up here to this one, do the same thing. So just kind of starting at the bottom and up. I'm going to go across where that second line is. And see how I'm not really even sticking straight to the drawing. This one can be real quick too. If you remember when we were doing the sunflower, I kind of just quickly outlined some of the sunflower petals, and I don't go to the tip of the petal on those either. So you can, your eye can pick up those lines without seeing the whole shape like that. And it actually looks more like you quickly sketched it out rather than a perfect coloring page. Like I've been saying, we've been coloring it in like a coloring page, but we don't want it to actually look like a coloring page. Same with these leaves. You can just do the bottom of them like that. You don't have to trace the whole thing in. These little leaves especially, you don't want to make them too heavy. Otherwise, they won't float nicely. Okay, like that. And then same with these ones. We can go just gently up the middle. We don't even really have to do the outer edges of these. And just do one side. And then I'm going to come on to this one. So again, on this one here, I'm going to try to keep it where you can see it. I just spun the whole thing around like all the way back where I started. Anyway, going from the bottom all the way up to the middle. And then I can just quickly do these ones. I don't even have to do a good job of it. And I can kind of go on one side or the other of them. It does not even have to be the whole thing. See how that works? And then this one. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't even hit that one center, and it still looks good. So just want to be kind of gentle and careful and light-handed with your brush or with your pen. Alrighty, that's all, folks. I hope you really enjoyed that. It's really simple and straightforward. I just noticed this place where I need a little thing that I could see on the screen. There we go. We're done. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for sharing the Bible verses, guys. And if you decide to draw some of these leaves, whether you freehand them or use pencil or watercolor, please take a picture and share it with Artworthy Life on the page, or share it on your own page and tag Artworthy Life. That works really, really well. But there's the two pages together. I super love it. And those leaves are not difficult. Again, if you want to know how to draw them, it's inside the Art Journaling DIY group, which is a free group, and you can learn how to draw all of those. So I hope I get to see some of yours. That was really, really fun. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you next week on Artworthy Life on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern, right here on Artworthy Life. Take care, God bless, and have a great day.